I would like to welcome to all people present today. And first of all, my great gratitude to our colleague, our fellow, Ahmad, that was the visionary for this type of webinars. And there are nothing better than having one of the key personalities in Europe as the CEO of Volkswagen, Dr. Georg Schütte, to start with this and to identify the pathways that we have in Europe and how this could, what we do as researchers, as academicians, what are the needs that for our prosperity, collective prosperity we need. It's a great honor for us, all of members of the European Academy of Science, to have so distinguished personality among us and to open this new era that we want to inaugurate inside EurASc under the leadership of our fellow Shahzada Ahmad, and nothing better than starting the Jubilee here as a so great and honorable and distinguished personality. The floor is yours, Professor Dr. Georg Schütte.
Well, thank you very much, President Professor Rodrigo Martins and Shahzada Ahmad. Thank you very much to all of you for having me amongst you. As you heard, my name is Georg Schütte. I am the CEO of the Volkswagen Foundation. And I should probably explain in 1 or 2 sentences what the foundation is all about. It carries the name of the car manufacturing company Volkswagen. However, it's completely independent of this company. It came into being, as a matter of fact, more than 60 years ago. At that time, Volkswagen in Germany was a state-owned company. It was owned by the Federal Republic of West Germany at that time, and one of the northern German states, the state of Lower Saxony. All right, the state of Lower Saxony. And by the beginning of the 1960s, these 2 owners decided to privatize the company. It went public, it became stock listed, and the revenues from privatizing the companies went to the 2 owners. And as it is very often the case in the German federal system, the federal and the state level could not agree upon what to do with the money. So the compromise was to eventually found a foundation that operates in the public interest to support science and research. And this is the Volkswagen Foundation. This is what we do. I came to the foundation about 5 years ago. I've been in research sponsorship and research collaboration for more than 30 years. I've worked for various foundations in Germany. Amongst others, I was Secretary General of the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. This is how Shahzada Ahmad and I met. And for about 10 years, I took a detour and worked in public service as permanent secretary in the Federal Ministry of Education and Research from 2009 to 2019. And during that tenure, I also enjoyed the privilege to be in charge of European research policy. And this is to some extent something I'm going to talk about right now. I prepared a small presentation, and if you allow, I will now open this. Hi. Yeah. Yes, please.
Before that, I think I will introduce you, and then you can. It's a very good time. Then you can carry on with the.
Yes, please.
So, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, in which time zone you are, dear colleague, esteemed guest, Dr. Schütte, Mr. President, member of the Presidium, researchers, ladies and gentlemen. I am deeply delighted to welcome you to the kickoff seminar series of European Academy of Science, and is our opportunity to engage with the global leader for science and society. This conversation is being recorded and also live on YouTube, and will be available afterward on our YouTube channel. My name is Shahzada Ahmad. I am Professor of Material Science and a member of the European Academy of Science. For the next 1 hour, I am joined by Dr. Georg Schütte, Secretary General of the Volkswagen Foundation, most probably the largest private foundation in the world. Prior to this, Dr. Schütte was a State Secretary for German Federal Ministry of Education and Research for a decade. He earned his doctorate in the media and communication research from Technical University of Dortmund and a master's degree from City University of New York. Dr. Schütte also conducted research at Harvard University and University of Siegen. He has over 30 years of research experience and innovation in foundation management. He has also served as Secretary General of Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, which I'm always proud to say that I am a Humboldt Fellow or I was a Humboldt Fellow, because once a Humboldtian, always a Humboldtian. Most recently, he contributed to the EU Commission High-Level Expert Group on Horizon Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in a fragmented world, and the burden on science and scientists is more than ever. Soft power and science diplomacy can win hard and build bridges to drive discovery and innovation. We have to double down the science and find solutions for the world's biggest challenges that need collaboration across border, discipline, and culture. We are living in a polarized world, and in the next 2 decades, it will be bipolar or a tripolar equation. And to navigate it effectively, we need experts like Dr. Schütte, who has mastered the art of international science diplomacy and public funding. It is fair to say that I cannot imagine a better expert in Europe today on science policy and diplomacy than Dr. Schütte, who watched it closely and contributed effectively for the last 3 decades. Today, Dr. Schütte will enlighten us with his talk in Troubled Water, the future of European science and innovation policy. So thank you to all our members who have joined us in being engaged today. With this, I pass the floor to Dr. Schütte to learn from his wisdom the perspective and innovation landscape in. So the floor is with you, Dr. Schütte.
Well, thank you very much, and I apologize for starting a little bit too early. I was just not patient enough, so I sincerely apologize for that, and I thank you very much for this extremely kind introduction. It's an honor for me to join you, and I'm privileged and delighted to be part of your group and to be part of this 1 hour of presentation and exchange. I called my presentation In Troubled Waters to talk about the future of European science and innovation policy. And just as Professor Shahzada Ahmad said, we are living in a world that is changing rapidly and dramatically even, and has been changing in recent years. And it's going to be propelled by current political development, which we can see all over the world. What am I going to do? I'm going to refer to the work of the European Commission expert group that Shahzada Ahmad just mentioned. For the past 12 months, we've been working on a report which we then eventually called Align, Act, Accelerate, 12 recommendations on how to further develop European innovation and research policy. It's just the beginning of a public debate that this year will materialize by the middle of the year with the first midterm financial program that sets the financial stage for the future of science and research and innovation in Europe. Later this year, and then during the next year, the member states will decide upon the 10th framework program for research and innovation. If there is going to be such a thing like a 10th framework program, I will come to that later again. So it's a longer political process which we, a group of European experts, tried to shape to some extent with our recommendations. So we were about 16 people from all over Europe to work together. It was, as all of you know, being members of the European Academy, it's always a challenging process to create a joint basis of understanding given the different national and cultural backgrounds, but we worked closely together to eventually write this report. And during the next about 20 minutes, I will try to guide you through the 12 recommendations that we developed in our expert group. The first one is a rather general one, but it's important when we consider the political framing of European science and research policy. We do see that if we want to put science and research at the heart of European research and at the heart of European policy in general, we need what we call a whole of government approach. Why do we say this? If we look at Ursula von der Leyen's address at the beginning of her new tenure as European Commission President, it was her statement that science and research needs to be at the heart of European policy. If we want to do that, and if we want to design a research and innovation policy that is relevant to all the member states, that is relevant to policymakers all over Europe, and as President Rodrigo Martin said, a policy which is also relevant to the people in Europe, then we need an approach where we do not have science and research as a silo which is not accessible to others, but rather we need science, research, and innovation as a cross-cutting issue in different fields of European policy. The second recommendation comes along with rather simple and compelling terms by saying that we need to make Europe globally competitive, secure, sustainable, and resilient with a new and stronger framework program. But there is a good reason why I framed this presentation with 3 words: in troubled waters. What do we see currently? If we zoom back about 8 years ago now, there was another expert group which was led by Pascal Lamy. And this expert group pointed out to a number of challenges and shortcomings in Europe at that time. The major one was the observation that while Europe was leading in large areas of basic research, it fell short of valorizing the research results, of transforming research results into economic progress. If you look at the situation today, the world has changed dramatically, because the first part of the Lamy observation that Europe is leading in quite a number of research fields, this no longer holds true. We did not perform worse than 7 or 8 years ago. The challenge is that others have become better than we are within these short period of time. If we look at the statistics, they are rather rough, and one can always debate whether indicators are appropriate or not. If we use the rough indicators that bibliography, biometrics provide us with, then we can see that if we look at the top 1% most cited scientific publications, Europe now ranks 3rd behind China and the United States. In terms of number of publications, about 2 or 3 years ago, China overtook not only Europe but also the United States in terms of a volume of scientific publication. If we look at critical fields of research, amongst others artificial intelligence, then the EU was leading in the period of 2005 to 2015. If we look at the latest figures of 2021 now, China has surpassed both Europe and the United States in terms of leading AI scientific publications. If we look at patents, the same picture. Years ago, Europe was leading in terms of world patent applications at the beginning of this millennium. Right now, we are falling to 2nd or 3rd place, depending on which areas you look at. So the general picture is that we need to realign, reconfigure European research policy in order to be competitive, in order to stay on an excellence level. At the same time, And this is a second observation with regard to troubled waters we are in. What do we see? How did the world change in the past 8 to 10 years? Just a number of observations. The first one is the rise of disruptive and generative technology. I already mentioned artificial intelligence, but we can also look at quantum technologies and quantum communications. We can look at synthetic biology, cellular technologies for protein enrichment of food products and other fields. We have and we do observe radical changes, radical technological changes. At the same time, the climate crisis and the environmental crisis has been worsening. And this happens at a time when we enter a new geopolitical power struggle, ending up, as we heard at the very beginning also in Professor Martin's remarks, we do see the emergence of a new bipolar world with a new power competition between the United States on the one hand and China on the other. But it might be more than a bipolar world. It might be a multipolar world with other countries entering the scene as well. If we look, for example, at the recent development within the BRICS environment, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and affiliated countries. We see a multipolar world, and for good reasons, other countries, other world regions have become part of a global scientific sphere. But at the same time, we do see geopolitics and power politics overarching scientific collaboration and science policy. And we do have to face the hard fact that war returned not only to Europe, but to the world. The Russian invasion in Ukraine, we have observed in 2022, but it already started in 2014. We see the war in Israel, we see a civil war in Sudan, and we see military conflicts in other parts of the world. Amongst these observations, which you all know, which you all can see when you read newspapers, there is one observation which is fairly trivial and yet important, and that is the observation that change happens at a more rapid, in shorter time frames. Speed has become an important issue, and we have to adapt to a radically changing world in a small period of time. And last but not least, one last observation is the privatization of basic research, which we can observe in the United States. Is there an interruption? Do I have to say or observe something? I don't hear you. You're muted.
See, the slides are not changing.
That is right. I'm just talking about just this one, and then I will continue to other recommendations. I'm sorry that I didn't prepare slides for these observations, which I currently share. It is meant as an explanation of the rather short terms which we use here, but which are underlined by a number of facts that I tried to summarize. And the last observation is the privatization of basic research that happens in the United States. While public funders provided the majority of funding for basic research years ago, right now private investment in science and research in the United States and in basic research in the United States has reached almost the level of public spending at that time. So to cut it short, yes, we are in troubled waters and we need a stronger framework program. If I say stronger framework program, what does that mean? We currently spend a little more than 90 billion euro on the current framework program. Mario Draghi, the former president of the European Central Bank and Italian Prime Minister, in his report of September of last year, proposed that we should spend 200 billion on the next framework program. We in our group tried to calculate the figure a little bit better and ended up with a proposal to even spend 220 billion euro on the next framework program. And I will explain that in a second. Why in a second? Because this picture shows you four areas that we focused on. I will talk in the next minutes about competitive excellence on the one hand. I will talk about industrial competitiveness, societal challenges, and the European research and innovation system. And I will close at the very end by talking about international research collaboration and security and defense research. So let's dive right into it. But before I do this, this is a rather basic recommendation. Given the fact that there are radical technological changes, we thought that it is necessary on the European level to have an experimental unit to simply test new programs and instruments in terms of funding processes and funding procedures. But that is more a formal recommendation. Here I come to the heart of one of our recommendations. We took a very close look at the European Research Council, the European Innovation Council, and the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. Our basic observation is, do not change a successful formula. These are best ever funding lines on the European level. They have created a worldwide reputation. And I said that we propose to provide 220 billion euro for the next framework program. How did we end up with this number? Rather than simply stating a political figure, just a figure out of the blue that tries to raise the level to the highest level in order to be prepared for political negotiations, it was our intention to provide empirical evidence for the number that we came up with. Where is our empirical evidence? We looked at all the proposals to the ERC, the EIC, and for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie programs. We looked at all the proposals that were rated excellent. And we then calculated how much money will be needed to fund all those proposals which received the highest mark and the highest level. Success rates varied around 13, 15, 18% in these programs, but the excellence criterion was met by many more proposals. In order to fund all the programs rated excellence, we do need 220 billion. So that is the simple fact that we try to convey by recommending that we need to strengthen competitive excellence. Well, we also inserted a number of small recommendations. For example, with regard to the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, we propose a program which we call Choose Europe, and there is at least one European organization, Cesar, that picked up that idea. Choose Europe is meant to attract postdoctoral researchers from all over the world to come to Europe, because we, on the one hand, can observe a brain drain within Europe from Eastern and Southeastern Europe to Western and Northwestern Europe, but at the same time we are losing talent to other parts of the world, and we need excellent people to come to Europe. So we propose to have an extra funding line to attract talent from abroad. When we looked at the EIC programs are fairly well aligned. There is a very good connection between the ERC and the EIC. But in order to actually take advantage of the investment that we make through the European Innovation Council, we discovered the need to, on the one hand, create a new growth fund for new companies and startups. And we also propose to look at the advanced research project agencies in the United States and come up with new funding lines for disruptive ideas in Europe. Industrial competitiveness was the second focus area that I mentioned. Our observation is, and from having talked to quite a number of industry representatives from Europe, it was substantiated. The observation is that industry and SMEs continue to lose interest in European funding. It's too complicated. It does not address the needs of the companies. It's not well aligned to national funding lines. How can we change that? Our proposal is that we need an expert panel to address this issue. So we proposed an industrial competitiveness and technology council that brings together company representatives and innovation researchers. So it should not only be company representatives, because then they serve their own interest and not the general interest of Europe. But if they coordinate programs or make recommendations on how to organize programs together with innovation researchers and innovation experts, we would hope that we come up with a program that is more attractive, because we need industry, we need SMEs as collaborators for that type of research that creates also labor opportunities and value in Europe. And that comes up with programs which are not overly complicated and in line with industry interest. There is quite a number of research that is not immediately oriented at being useful for company, businesses, and enterprises. We do see societal challenges ranging from healthcare provision all the way through topics like the future of democratic societies in Europe and other societal issues. Just as we could observe in industrial research and collaborative research with industry, again, we do not see that all stakeholders in Europe are adequately involved. We do see programs that are not in line with the needs of societies in Europe. So we came up with the proposal to also have a Societal Challenges Council that tries to reach out also to other stakeholders, like amongst others, foundations and their funding models, and come up with new programs that certainly address what we currently have as missions of the European Union. The current mission-oriented innovation policy approach received a lot of criticism in our group, because if we look at missions like, for example, the cancer mission, it is actually not a mission where you reach an objective within a given period of time. Rather, it's a cancer research funding program. If you were to call it a mission, then you need a point in time when you can say mission accomplished. The fight against cancer is an ongoing one, and if we want to continue with a mission-oriented approach, we either have to clearly define a mission or just drop the label and come up with a realistic description of what we do. We would see the Societal Challenges Council as a forum to engage in debates of this sort and come up with orientations, what kind of challenges we should address, in what kind of configuration, with what kind of research actors within the academic world, and probably further non-academic partners in other realms of society. Last but not least, we do need an attractive and inclusive research, development, and innovation ecosystem in Europe. Brain drain, I already referred to, is an issue that needs to be addressed. We have to align national research and innovation policy with European policies. We need to agree upon let's say competitive funding for research and innovation also on the national level. On the European level, we set the goal to 3% of the gross domestic product to be spent on research and innovation, but this threshold has only been reached by about 4 countries within Europe. At the same time, we do have 7 member states that spend less than 1% of their GDP on research and innovation. So we have to further align national member state policy and European policy through a process which is being called the European semester. It's a reporting and assessment exercise, but it currently has not developed the type of strength that actually motivates member states for a more advanced type of spending on research and innovation. We also have to come to terms with research and technology infrastructures. We deliberately chose to call it research and technology infrastructures. We need joint research infrastructures, large research infrastructures. We do have a process in Europe which is called the ESRI process, the European Strategic Forum for Research Infrastructures, which is, as a matter of fact, a compilation of a large number of research infrastructures. And we need to ask whether these are the right ones or whether we want to focus on just a set of really advanced research infrastructures that deserve European funding because they cannot be built by member states alone. At the same time, we also need technology infrastructures which are being used as test beds for industry, for example, for advanced battery production and battery research, to provide you with just one example. We cannot do this without universities all over Europe. And even though the university alliances are not being funded through the framework program, or not yet, European university alliances are just one example on how to further combine and combine the forces and strength in Europe in order to jointly address and to jointly create an ecosystem for research and an ecosystem for innovation. Another form, in addition to having an experimental unit, which I referred to at the very beginning, simplification is an issue that occurs time and again. Whenever we talk about a new framework program, we also talk about simplification, user orientation, and efficiency. Why so? Because over time, again and again, new procedures are being developed, new programs come into being with new sets, rules, and new set of rules and regulations. So it is necessary to repeatedly call for simplification again. And in our report, we came up with quite a number of examples on how to do this. If we want research to be effective and to also lead to the creation of new markets, not each type of research needs to do this, to be quite clear. If we talk about societal challenges, we do not talk about the creation of new markets. If we talk about industrial competitiveness, it's a different ballgame. If we want to do this, public procurement seems to be a core measure on how to reach this. And there are quite a number of obstacles with regard to public procurement in Europe. If we want to scale up research results, we need this instrument and we need to develop it on the European level. I said at the very beginning that I will close by talking about international research collaboration and defense and security research. Let's look at international research collaboration here in the first place. In the 8th framework program, not the current one, but the last one, it was by then Research Commissioner Carlos Moedas from Portugal who framed the term that we need open science that is open to the world and invites researchers from all over the world to international collaboration. The world has changed ever since, and I referred to that at the very beginning when Shahzada Ahmad said that I did not move forward my slide because I talked so much about a changing world. Allow me to refer to this again. In a changing geopolitical environment, we also observe currently a new approach to international research collaboration on the European level. And it's no longer open to the world, but rather as open as possible, as closed as necessary. And especially China is being seen as a competitor. Why China? Because China has advanced in not only basic research, as I said in the very beginning, but also in applied research and in significant fields like artificial intelligence. And at the same time, we see a new geopolitical alignment of non-democratic or more state-controlled countries like China in alliance with Russia, in alliance with countries like Iran, and a new geopolitical power struggle. So that leads to the notion of as open as possible, as close as necessary. China in European parlor is being framed as partner in terms of addressing global challenges like climate change and the loss of biodiversity, as competitor in terms of technologies and in terms of industries and industrial products, and as rival in terms of political systems, rival democracies against state-controlled countries, more autocratic countries. The simple approach would be we collaborate wherever it's possible, we compete with a new set of rules wherever it's necessary, and we don't do anything together if we enter the field of systemic rivalry. The challenge is that, as we can see with China, it's just one country which is all of the above. So how do we address this? Our proposal is a very pragmatic one. Rather than simply say what we should not do, we need to identify in the first place our own interest. What do we want in Europe? What do we need in Europe? Where is our research interest? Where's our research interests? Where are our economic interests? Where are our political interests? The guiding line for research and innovation policy and science policy should be the scientific, the academic interest in collaboration. And then we should define the partners that we need. And we need a utilitarian, outcome-oriented approach with whom to collaborate. At the same time, we certainly will enter collaborations which involve a certain type of political risk. So we do need a pool of knowledge and information about other countries, about research collaboration with other countries. And we should work on a strategy to advance the EU and developments within the EU as a setter of global standards. It's not easy. It receives a lot of criticism. If we look at AI regulation, Europe took the lead in terms of regulating AI and not following a laissez-faire approach. And we will see how this regulation translates into international standards, or whether it does not. So the bottom line is that we will enter a new world of research collaboration where the idealistic notion that science is open, science can be free, is being challenged by other political realities, and we need to find a new way of research collaboration here. And we propose that this new approach is driven first by a definition of European interests and European objectives, and then we need a nuanced and differentiated approach to international research collaboration. And last but not least, we need to embrace dual-use research, which is inevitable if we talk about security and defense. The idea that we can always differentiate that a certain type of research is just open and another type is dual use or has the potential of dual use meaning civilian use and military use. This distinction no longer holds true and is viable. Given, as this slide says, the ubiquitous nature of very many modern technologies, almost every type of research has civilian and military applications as a potential inherent in the research. So our proposal is that we should have programs that, as you can see here, are first of all oriented towards military, and then the military should pay for it. And then there is other type of research that allows for civilian and military use, and we should just enable both types of research in order to strengthen our own defense and security capabilities. And having said that, and having reached recommendation number 12, I say thank you to you all for listening to me for such a long time, and I'm quite open for any comments or questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schütte, for enlightening us with the new Horizon Europe framework and the recommendation you and the committee made it. Now, now the talk is open for the question, and we are very happy. Yes, please unmute yourself. Sara, can you please unmute him? He's our head of the physics division. Yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you. It works. Yeah, head of the chemistry division.
Sorry for that.
No problem. Herr Schütte, very nice to see you here. We've met a long time ago when you were in function at the Humboldt Foundation, Pierre Braunstein, Strasbourg, and then during the Excellence Initiative, during your political phase. It's great to see you here. Thank you very much for your presentation. I fully agree with all what you say. I would just like to emphasize perhaps a few things. You rightly pointed out the huge success of EurASc, which is really a model of efficiency and excellence. So when you talk about simplification, I think we already have some models of what can be done. And this is really a major effort to pursue. And I wonder whether for industry, for research development, that's not what they need too. You know, to put together a panel with industry partners around the table. Many institutions have tried that. We've tried that in France with the academies, etc. It never works because industry partners are intrinsically competitors, and they will never tell you about their strategy for the next 5 or 10 years. So it becomes really a very unfruitful discussion. What they need, I think, is not subsidies from the public sector. They need freedom to engage with as less bureaucracy as possible. This is their responsibility. If they want the company to survive, they have to make the investment for research development. That had been the secret of the German chemical industry until recently, when the oil prices, etc., changed drastically because of political reasons, not for scientific reasons. So I think that's an important aspect to discover, to look at. About the European competitiveness, I think you're fully right in terms of attractivity, but there is one major discrepancy within Europe, are the salaries of researchers and academics between European countries. This is a driver for brain drain. A lot of people leave Europe because they consider their career is really unsatisfactory in view of the length of the studies and difficulties. I made a survey recently for our academy between France and Germany. There are factors of 3 depending on the Bundesländer and between France in academics. So this is not acceptable. And that's why we have such discrepancies in Europe. This is one of the reasons for the brain drain. It's not only the major programs, you're absolutely right, they play a key role, but at the individual level, a decision is made by individuals to leave the country or to leave Europe. There are reasons for that. We have to face the reality and try to tackle this problem rightly. And in terms of European preference, we all fully agree with you as well. But look at the European policy in the defense sector. Europe doesn't play the game. Most of the expenses are toward the US. So the European countries do not play the game you are suggesting to play. And this is also a major effort beyond research and science and development. So in summary, thank you very much indeed. A lot of stimulating ideas you've put together. Thank you very much for this concise presentation. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions and a lot of interactions. Thank you again very much indeed.
Thank you.
So thank you. We have at least 15 minutes more to go, and we can opportunity to take some questions from the floor. And Dr. Schütte is more than happy to answer it.
If I may comment on Professor Braunstein's remarks, the salaries of researchers is actually a challenge and has been for quite a long time. During my tenure in the ministry, I was involved in the negotiations on Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. And it was always a fierce debate with our colleagues from Eastern Europe who argued that we should pay from the money of the framework program the same salaries to all researchers on a set level, so that there would be no discrepancy whenever you receive European funding, discrepancy between places like, for example, Poland and Germany, to mention just two neighboring countries. The counter-argument was that if we were to pay German salaries or European level salaries on the German level also in Poland, then the incentive would be that most of the Polish researchers would try to get European funding and no longer work on the Polish level. So to describe it more generally, if we want to make labor policy through research policy, excuse me, it's going to be ill-fated. So we cannot solve salary and income level problems of individual member states through research funding, because it will create the wrong incentive. However, the downside is the brain drain issue that you, Professor Braunstein, that you mentioned. It's an issue that we have not been able to solve yet, but it's clear that we need to reach salary levels which are attractive all over Europe in order to avoid the type of brain drain you mentioned.
Mark, I fully agree.
Policies, we need collaboration. Industry has not been able, major defense producers and defense and research, defense and security companies have not been able to reach the level of collaboration. Rather, we've seen alliances between France, Germany, the UK, Spain, Italy come up and falter again. We need to get our act together. And research cannot solve issues of industry. If we can provide best practice examples of defense-related research collaboration, fair enough, but it's not only your and our sector that can solve the challenge here.
Sure. I fully agree that you cannot solve the salary issues at the European level, but provide an incentive for each country to adjust the salaries of the scientists to a decent level, to make it attractive also for the young generation. Exactly. When they see 12 years of study for the salary they would get, this is discouraging a lot of young people. But of course, Definitely. It's not at the level of Europe, but you can provide an incentive for the European countries, the members, to become more pragmatic and realistic. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Please raise your hand and unmute yourself and please ask your question. Jagir, sorry for that.
I essentially would like to take up the last comment. We need not equal salaries, but we need equal chances, especially for the young generation. Let me give one example. This is not an offense, but if you ask the young people from Italy, they always complain. They don't have the same chances in their own country like young people have, for instance, in Germany. And there we can do, I agree, you cannot have equal salaries. That's not possible because costs are also different in different places. But the chances are for Europe, are the young people, to make it attractive for young people. There has been a great success in the last time by the European programs because they support especially the young people very strongly. Main problem is for me from listening to your excellent lecture is who decides what should be done in science. That's a very difficult problem. I was once in charge of a global science forum of OECD for our government forced me into this program in mathematics. It's very difficult to have discussion. What should be done? And the structures I see from outside now, was not totally involved in any on the European level. I had contacts, but it's not always clear how this works. The decision making, what should be looked at, also would be a chance of the academies and the learned societies to take part, not in a political sense, but in preparation, the important topics, because also later selection is a problem. What should be done? Thank you.
Well, it's not an easy question. With regard to European policy, who are the actors who are involved? It is the member states who eventually decide within their respective councils. Member states usually do listen to the respective community. So one recommendation is to make yourself heard within the country. And at the same time, quite a number of research organizations now also have European level representation in Brussels. So there might be a dual approach of making yourself heard on the national level and at the same time address European institutions through European representation, Brussels representation at the same time.
Thank you. Daniela, Professor Daniela Rubato?
Yeah, hi. I'm Daniela Rubato from the University of Bern. I came in a few minutes late, so I apologize if my question was covered already at the beginning because I had some technical problem. But my question is, you emphasize a lot in your recommendation, at least the one I've seen, applied research, research that has societal impact, research that has dual use. Do you think there is a need to protect or dedicate program to fundamental research, the one we don't need today, but we might need in 20 years, or might we never need it, just for the sake of knowledge and not for the sake of solving any problem, or you know what I mean? So do you still need that there is need for that, or this should be left to university, the one that can do it, the one that can't, never mind. What's your position now? What's your think?
First and clear answer is yes, it's needed.
Yeah.
The more complicated answer or the longer answer is yes. At the very beginning, when I focused on competitive excellence, I tried to say that those programs that address basic research, essentially the European Research Council and the funding lines are just working excellently, should not be changed, but rather better funded. So we need more funding for that type of basic research, which is being organized from within the scientific community through the European Research Council. If we look at European research policy, at the same time we need to look at the Lisbon Treaty and the objectives of research collaboration, which are being laid out in the Lisbon Treaty. And there you do see that research collaboration in Europe is also labeled as collaboration that leads to improved living conditions in a rather general sense. So there is a phrasing that also leads to the applied research angle of the European Research Framework Program. But having the ERC as the front runner of basic research is a very good asset of the framework program, which we should not change in any way.
So thank you. Professor Bombero, please unmute yourself. Yeah. Unmute yourself, please.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, is that all right?
Yeah.
Good, thank you very much. I would like to thank Professor Georg Schütte for the very interesting presentation he gave us, and while dealing with addressing quite different, very relevant topics. And also with our colleagues, in particular Pierre Bronstein, who also added some very interesting points. And well, my aim is just to add another point that I think is not easy to solve, but anyhow, I think we have, it's an important, is of a relevance for this general topic. That is the precarity of the job, of the research job. Because in fact, this is, I think, is a very important point, because for young people, they know that their career in general will stop after a few years when their research contract ends. And I have very recently a very bad experience in my own research group and in my own institute, where a number of top researchers had their research contract, 6 years research contract finished, and now they are out of job. They really are looking for a place anywhere in the world. Very probably will get it outside Europe, because some of them really are excellent in research in their own fields. And I believe that, well, they will be welcome in countries like China, States, even Russia, well, in spite of the problems the current problems that we know. But very probably Europe will lose, and so there will be a brain drain. And I think this probably is not, well, this should not be only a problem in our country, in my country, in Portugal. I mean, it is, I agree that it is not easy to present solutions, to bring them and to get an agreement on that. But I feel that this is one of the major problems now, is just how precarious is the situation for, well, concerning the job for researchers. So thank you very much.
Well, I certainly agree, and it is a challenge. I don't know whether we'll be able to solve this on a European level, I have to admit. I think it's a challenge to all member states. We have a similar debate in Germany. However, if we compare conditions in Germany to other countries, they might still be fairly good. And yet it is a challenge to maintain the attractiveness of academic positions. Yes, indeed. And it's going to be a challenge, I suppose, for all member states, because the competition for funding amongst different political sectors, be it health policy, health provision, healthcare provision, be it pension funds and others. So there are various sectors that call for increased funding, and it's our challenge to get science and the academic sector being heard in this public debate and being taken seriously. Yes. So no easy way out, I have to admit, and no clear recommendation, I have to admit.
Yeah, but perhaps if you allow me, there is an important point also in this subject, that is the recognition of the merit. I think, of course, not everybody, not all the researchers will be able, well, even in a perfect society or so, to continue to do research, because you have a wide range. Yeah, you have a scale, and the window is very large. You have really very excellent researchers, and you have on the other extreme people who really are doing research just because they don't they did not manage to get another job. So you have all this, yeah. And I think there should be a mechanism of evaluation on the basis of the scientific merit. And the scientific merit should have a proper place and a proper recognition. And so for those who really show to be excellent, I think, well, there should be strong support for them, yeah. And at least, well, not all of them.
We're running short of time. Can we take a couple of more questions from other participants?
Okay.
Professor Rodrigo, do you have any final words to say, or please raise your hand, or
this is your fault. I think that it was fantastic, the discussion and the way how we could be engaged. I would have a full box of questions, because this is my see. I like a lot to discuss this policy makings for the future. But this was fantastic. This is what I have to say. Nothing more. Great speech, great communication, great open eyes for the future. And both of you are absolutely fantastic guys for us, and the academy. I do appreciate a lot your efforts, Shahzada, and the great speech. And we expect to have George with us in the near future. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for listening to me and exchanging views with me within the past hour. It was an honor to be part of your group. Thank you very much. And it was good to see old friends again. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much to all our fellow Academy members. Thank you, Dr. Schütte, for taking time out of your busy schedule and enlightening us with the new research policy. I hope and I believe that in the next annual meeting, you can join us in person and give a talk. The next will be in the sun in Switzerland, 2025. So maybe the next one. So in any of the annual meeting, you can join us and enlighten us with the talk. And thank you very much again for your time and all the fellows who have joined us today.